Now, what this means is that the Chief Minister can be called in for questioning, an FIR can be registered against him, he can be made an accused in this case. Remember, the allegation is that the Chief Minister's wife, no less, got prime property in the heart of Mysuru in exchange for agricultural land which her brother had got many years ago and that was transferred to her name in the outskirts of the city. But the Chief Minister is having none of it. He's digging his heels in. He's saying two things. One, on the legal front, he says legally there's only one clause that the governor's case rests on, and he says legally he will challenge that in the Supreme Court. And two, politically, he has dared everybody, perhaps his detractors within the party, and maybe even sending out a signal to the High Command. He has now called out for a meeting of the Congress Legislature Party tomorrow. Now remember, Siddaramaiah has very strong support in the Legislature Party. He knows it, his detractors know it, and perhaps even the High Command knows it. So this is a move at strong arming, in the sense bulldozing his way through despite what is an inimical order today by the Karnataka High Court. So the question then is, the net is closing in on the Chief Minister. How long can Siddaramaiah hold out?
It needs to be investigated thoroughly and impartially. To conduct the investigation impartially, Siddaramaiah needs to be resigned.
It is not only victory of the Bharatiya Janata Party, it is also the victory of the people of Karnataka.
After go through the judgment, I will discuss with the legal experts and also with my cabinet colleagues and party, and also with the High Command. What action to be taken legally to be spelled out.
No question. My Chief Minister has not done anything wrong. He is not involved with any scam. It is a political conspiracy by the BJP to all of us, to all the opposition leaders in the country.
All right, before we open it up to our panelists, let me just go through the highlights of what the court has said. It's a pretty scathing order for the Chief Minister. It has said, and I quote, the governor can take independent decisions if there are exceptional circumstances which arise. The decision of the cabinet would not be free from bias of being partisan towards their leader. The allegation, as per the governor, were grave and therefore immediate action was taken. Swift action cannot be imagined to result in vitiating the entire order itself. And here's the most damaging part for the Chief Minister. Difficult to accept that Chief Minister Siddaramaiah was not behind the curtain during this transaction. How and why the rule was bent in favor of his family of the Chief Minister is what is required to be investigated. If the beneficiary were to be a stranger, the court would have thrown the complainants and shown them the exit door. Unheard of for a common man to get these kind of benefits in such quick succession. Such allotment of sites as compensation is contrary to laid down rules. It's very, very scathing in the order that it has come out against the Chief Minister, but the Chief Minister is holding out, saying that he will fight it out legally and politically. How tenable is his position? Let's open this up. Sides for Islam is National Spokesperson of the BJP, Bhavya Narasimhamurthy, Spokesperson of the Congress Party, Aman Lekhi, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, former Additional Solicitor General, and R. Rajagopalan, Senior Journalist, now joining us as well. Bhavya, let me start with you first. I just read out excerpts from what the court has said today. It's a High Court ruling. How can the Chief Minister disregard what the High Court has said, particularly the part where it said, difficult to accept that the Chief Minister was not behind the curtain during this transaction. How and why the rule was bent in favor of the family of the Chief Minister is what is required to be investigated. How can he continue to occupy a powerful position if he himself and his position of power and influence itself is subject to having bent rules in favor of his family?
First and foremost, you need to see the timeline as to when this was allotted. This was allotted under BJP government. Do these BJP people mean to say the chief minister of BJP was less powerful than the then opposition leader? If Siddaramaiah has influenced then, that either means the BJP chief minister was toothless, or now, if you people are doubtful that he will influence, how? What is the role of chief minister there? Yes, the High Court has dismissed our petition. That doesn't mean, we can't go higher up. We have the complete faith in the law and order of this country. We have High Court, double bench, or even the Supreme Court. Whatever the legal experts of our government say, whatever the cabinet ministers decide, the people of Karnataka is with the chief minister. The High Command of Congress is with the chief minister. The whole cabinet stands with the chief minister. BJP, it's pure political vendetta.
Can I read out the timeline since you questioned, ma'am, the timeline of when this was allotted? August of 2004, Mr. Siddaramaiah's brother-in-law, the brother of his wife, purchases 3.16 acres. October 2010, the land is gifted to his sister Parvati, who is Siddaramaiah's wife. June 2014, the chief minister's wife seeks compensation for land used by Muda. June 2014, it was not the BJP government that was in power. December 2017, Muda one second, I'm not finished. December 2017, Muda decides to award alternative sites to Parvati. Again, not when the BJP was in power. And January 2022, Parvati gets 14 plots in Vijayanagar third phase in exchange for the agricultural land that is in the outskirts of Mysuru. Now, please tell me what in this timeline that I've mentioned is wrong.
When this was allotted, that's exactly what I was saying. When this was allotted, BJP was in power.
The approval for allotment came in December 2017. In December 2017, BJP was not in power in Karnataka.
2017, it was not allotted. 21, it was allotted.
Ma'am, December 2017, Muda decided to award alternative sites to the chief minister's wife, to everyone, including the chief minister's wife. The actual allotment order came out in January 2022.
So, Jacob, the question is not about whether the alternate land has to be given or not. It has to be given. It's every person's right if the government has acquired, right?
Today the court has said, such allotment of sites as compensation is contrary to laid down rules in today's order.
In 21, it was allotted. That's exactly what I'm saying.
So you're saying that the court is wrong when it says awarding such compensatory plots is contrary to laid down rules. The court order today is wrong?
So that means let them investigate. The chief minister has clearly said he's not against the investigation. He's just against the misuse of the position of governor.
Ma'am, one question before I go to the others. How can there be an impartial, independent probe against the wife of a sitting chief minister when he continues to be the chief minister? How can there be an independent probe?
Let's take the example of Yadurappa. He was a sitting chief minister when he was investigated. When the Lokayukta, and he resigned only because Lokayukta Santosh Hegde presented a 1,600-page report saying he is guilty of it. Not when the investigation was happening. There is no question of the CM resigning because this political
vendetta. May I remind you and our viewers, after the Lokayukta report, the then governor had given sanction to prosecute Mr. B.S. Yadurappa. He stepped down when the sanction to prosecution was given.
Lokayukta has some credibility. This man, as per the same Santosh Hegde sir's words, the man who has registered a complaint is a blackmailer. Okay. You really think the governor should have trusted in a man whom the Lokayukta calls a blackmailer?
Let me ask Zafar Islam. Zafar Islam, the chief minister is digging his heels in. He says there were 3 clauses that were moved by the complainant before the governor for giving sanction to prosecute. He says that in today's order, 2 out of those 3 clauses have been rejected by the court itself. There is only 1 clause as per which the sanction to prosecute has been given. I believe it's clause 17A. And he says he's well within his right to challenge this before a division bench of the High Court or even go up all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, Zakai, of course, he has the rights to approach Supreme Court or the other benches. But what is more important in the eyes of the public Everyone knows that he has misused his power. He has been guilty of violating all the possible rules to allot these plots to his wife, or this wife as the beneficiary when the allotment was made, and while violating all the possible rules.
No. What
So
did he violate? What they're saying that the allotment happened when your party was in power. What did he violate
No.
exactly?
So the committee was formed, Zaka, and committee has found that many violation was done while making the allotment. So whoever was the responsible at that time should be held guilty first. Mr. Siddaramaiah must have influenced those people. He must be held guilty. And even those people, respect to the government, at that point in time, whoever was part of the Muda was responsible, they should also be held responsible.
So you're saying even though the BJP was in power when the allotment happened, whoever was responsible in Muda or in the BJP government at that time should also be held accountable along with the chief minister.
See, who is responsible? It's the Muda.
Yes.
Muda has made this allotment.
Yes.
And the officials who have actually violated the guidelines at that point in time or the late provision, those should be definitely should be held guilty and they should be punished as per the law. But as a chief minister, when everyone knows there has been violation while making this allotment, then of course he should take moral responsibility and moral high ground and put his resignation. And
But you're saying that he is well within his legal rights to continue till he's exhausted them.
No, everybody has the legal rights. This is only the High Court, Zaka, and then of course he can approach Supreme Court. He can put further.
Okay.
That legal right is the right of every citizen. But he is the chief minister. When he is found guilty, and when court has allowed his prosecution, then I'm sure that every sensible person, especially when you are the chief minister and when your wife is the subject who has been allotted, then he must resign.
I want to go across to Mr. Aman Lekhi and also to senior journalist Mr. Rajagopalan. Let's look at some of the precedents that have happened in similar cases of alleged corruption against sitting chief ministers. In 1995, in Tamil Nadu, the sanction to prosecute the Tamil Nadu chief minister at that time, Jayalalitha, for corruption allegations was given. It's a different matter. She did not step down. And then in the subsequent election that happened in 1996, the following year, her party lost badly. In 1997, the Bihar chief minister at that time, Lalu Prasad Yadav, there was sanction that was granted to prosecute against him in the fodder scam. He stepped down and made his wife, Rabri Devi, the chief minister. In 2016, the governor at that time in Maharashtra had given the sanction to the CBI to prosecute Ashok Chavan in the Adarsh housing scam. Ashok Chavan stepped down as chief minister. In 2011, and I come back to this example which I had quoted to Bhavya, after the Lokayukta found prima facie material to sanction the then Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa, he stepped down for alleged graft. So if there are these examples of chief ministers, sitting chief ministers, who have stepped down when sanction to prosecute was given, why should it be, Aman Lekhi, any different for Siddaramaiah?
Well, Zaka, an ethics-based paradigm is non-existent in our country, and generally, and this applies across the political spectrum, politics does trump propriety. What is very important to note here is, one, this is not a case of sanctional prosecution. We are talking about 17A. 17A is a stage much anterior, wherein there is to be inquiry or investigation. So that is at the threshold. So the only issue here is whether there is cause. If there is a prima facie case which requires investigation, then subject to the conditions 17A, you proceed with investigation. The instances you're talking about, the prosecution, either after Lokayukta report, etc., which are the bar to cognizance. So that follows an investigation. This is at the very commencement. So if there is cause, then there has to be investigation. And because it is at the threshold, insofar as the cause for interference is concerned, where corruption seems to be quite patent, to stifle investigation would not be correct. But that is only one part of this, because I said as far as impropriety is concerned, the impropriety is across the spectrum. What I want to also point out is the impropriety of the chief minister continuing, because this is in some way going to handicap the investigation in any case and affect the very independence of the investigating agency. What is equally important is, and this is something which is missed because it's a polarized debate, there are a few issues I want to flag, even where the governor is concerned, because there is, insofar as the aspect is concerned, it gets lost in this kind of tutu meme which happens in the political interaction. What I have noticed since what the governor has done is he has referred to 218 of the court, which deals with prosecution. That is prosecution which follows investigation. So that means it's not present to the governor's mind. That is what is the stage that he is actually looking. It's not a case 17A according to him. It's a case of 17A and 218. It's not a stage of 218 at all. This is number one. Number two, there are 3 complaints, and it is obligatory for the governor to deal with all 3 complaints, which he has not done, and so far as the 3 particular complaints are concerned. And number 3, that's the most important, while the governor is not bound, and this is where Siddaramaiah is wrong, the governor is not bound by the Council of Ministers. We can't say he has to follow, but the governor has to have reasons not to follow. So I don't know the details of this particular case. It is from the public domain that there is apparently a 90-page reply. So what is very pertinent is, has the governor applied his mind to that 90-page reply insofar as deciding to prosecute is concerned? So so far as the entities here are concerned, neither entity is in fact quoting itself in glory. Insofar as the one which is in fact seeking to give the permission is not all in the clear and is vulnerable to criticism that he is acting as an agent. And the one against whom proceedings are to be instituted is also equally dubious because he is holding on to the chair, notwithstanding the fact that the case is in fact a fairly.
On the application of mine by the governor, this is what the order today says, and I quote, the gubernatorial order nowhere suffers from want of application of mind. It is not a case of not even a semblance of application of mind by the governor, but abundance of application of mind. That is on that part. I also want to ask you, since you said about the impropriety of continuance of a person in a position of power, my understanding is, and anybody on the panel is free to correct me, the ongoing probe which the Chief Minister ordered into this, the allotment of commercial sites in lieu of agricultural land given to his wife, the probe ordered by the Chief Minister is by a retired High Court judge, and I understand that probe, once completed in 3 or 6 months, will submit its report to the Chief Minister himself. Do you think, Aman Lekhi, this will be a free, fair and impartial probe?
No, it will not be. And in fact, this particular device, which political establishment generally adopt, of having comfortable people to head committees to give favorable reports, is something which has become endemic and has to be condemned roundly. There is an investigating process and there's a law. And if there's cause for investigation, the policing agency has to do. And any interference in that particular investigation is unwarranted and has to in every case be avoided.
Okay, so let me go to Mr. Rajgopalan. Let's leave the legalities aside because ultimately this will be decided by a matter of politics. I don't think this will be decided by a matter of legalities. And the politics and the bottom line of the politics is simple, Mr. Rajgopalan. The Chief Minister, you heard his press conference, he's digging his heels in. He says, I'm not going anywhere. The entire party is rallying around me, the CLP, the cabinet colleagues, even the High Command. He's called for a CLP meeting tomorrow. And the last time there was a CLP meeting to elect him as Chief Minister, he had the support of 115 plus out of 135 MLAs. And he believes that support is very much intact.
Mr. Siddaramaiah, on political grounds, Jaka, he is on a stronger ground. But the High Court judgment has come in an inappropriate time because Haryana elections, it is going to definitely create a crisis because Haryana politics, Bhupender Hooda politics and Siddaramaiah politics are same based on real estate. So my point is, Jaka, 3 Gandhis are confused, Mallikarjun Kharge is confused and he is siding with Shivakumar, and that is why this Karnataka politics is going to take a longer time, and thereby Mr. Siddaramaiah will get a longer breath of time, and with that he will try to create an atmosphere. If state government is not allowed to continue, he might create an atmosphere because he has already been talked to the Bangalore South, where they are going to change the Ramnagara and give the entire thing to Priyanka Gandhi's husband. That is the allegation the BJP is also putting up. So therefore, it is a real estate things. Even Mallikarjun Kharge got into the real estate, Siddharth Nagar Trust. So therefore, Karnataka Congress is in the web of real estate, amassing the land grabbing. Therefore, it's high time Mr. Siddaramaiah resigns, pay way for Shivakumar or other leaders. It is going to be a big crisis for 3 Gandhis. Because one Gandhi is supporting Shivakumar, another Gandhi supports Siddaramaiah, third Gandhi is supporting Mallikarjun Kharge. Therefore, it's a crisis in Congress, I would like to say.
So, Bhavya Narasimhamurthy, I want to come back to the question that I asked Aman Lekhi as well. How can there be a free, fair and impartial probe when the person to probe and the committee to probe has been appointed by the Chief Minister himself? And the subject of the probe is whether the Chief Minister misused his office and his power.
I'm really surprised a senior advocate of Supreme Court, a former ASG, actually doubts the ethics of a retired justice. The person who has been appointed is a retired justice. And to
but the retired judge has been appointed by who? Appointed by Siddaramaiah himself
so you
or
mean
his
to
government.
Say you question his ethical grounds?
No. Isn't it obvious? Isn't it an obvious conflict of interest that when the Chief Minister is the subject of the investigation, he has ordered an investigation to a person appointed by him and a committee appointed by him?
And
so
to investigate
now,
his own case.
No. Let her respond. Yeah, Bhavya.
We honestly believe in the law and order of this country, whether it is appointed by the Chief Minister or not. We believe that is an independent committee and they're going to submit, they're going to do a very independent investigation and submit their report.
Okay.
And now, if the governor had followed the right rules without coming under the influence of central government, just like they're doing in other states like Tamil Nadu, Jharkhand, Kerala, everywhere, wherever BJP is in a position, then we wouldn't have any problem in the investigation. Now we all know the governor is misusing his position. That is the problem we are having with this.
Okay, Aman Lekhi, you want to respond to the point? She says that you are questioning the credentials of a retired judge. At the end of the day, his credentials must be above board for him to have been a judge in the first place.
Exactly.
I feel judges who accept these kinds of appointments compromise themselves and in some way compromise the legal process. No judge should ever be part of such an exercise, first of all, because they become tools in politics. This is number one. Number two, when there's an investigating method which is there and the law which sets out the steps which has to be followed for a particular investigation, to substitute it by an ad hoc mechanism is something which is totally unwarranted. And number three, the fact that you substitute it by something which is unwarranted shows that you got something to hide. Because if your fidelity to what the law says is clear, then your submission to law should also be absolute. And the fact that you evade the legal process through a mechanism which is of convenience quite clearly shows that everything is not right in what you say.
Okay, Zafar Islam, today the Chief Minister also quoted the example of Mr. Kumaraswamy, former Chief Minister and now Minister in Mr. Modi's government, saying the exact same thing allegation happened against him as well. He did not step down.
See, Zaka, no matter what he does to protect himself, no matter what whoever he names, he has no legs to stand. He has been responsible for all this corruption. His wife is responsible for getting this allotment through unfair practices. I think as the Chief Minister, it is his moral responsibility to resign. And if he doesn't resign, we will mount pressure on him, and there'll be enough within the Congress party who will pull him down.
I spoke to Mr. Priyank Kharge. I'll play out some of that excerpts of that interview in just a moment. But he says the wife of the Chief Minister, by the way, he was not the Chief Minister when the allotment happened. The wife of the Chief Minister is not the only beneficiary who's got this. Commercial plots in the heart of the city in lieu of agricultural land in the outskirts of the city. He says there are 50 other such cases the very same Muda has given, and not all of them are politically connected. So how do you respond to that?
See, Dhaka, if something unfairly has been done, it needs to be probed. And if the Chief Minister in question and his wife is in question, then of course it is first the responsibility of the Chief Minister to resign. As I said earlier, whether he wants to resign or he doesn't want to resign, we will put pressure on him, we will mount pressure on him, and there will be enough people within the Congress party who will pull him down as well.
Enough people within the Congress party who will pull him down.
Yes, you know that there is a lot of...
Okay, Bhavya, respond to that, and I'll wrap up after that, yeah.
Speak about horse trading.
Because he knows that there is a corrupt
No, but he's not talking about horse trading, he's talking about people within your party.
No, I'm saying that there is a corrupt man, people, his own legislature will not support it.
Yeah, no, so let her respond. He is saying, Bhavya, that there are enough people, I know who he's referring to, I don't want to name anyone, but I think our viewers are intelligent enough to figure out who he's talking about. But is it true that there are enough people within your party who want to pull Mr. Siddaramaiah down?
No. The problem here is BJP has not, this is not the first time they're doing this backdoor politics. In most of the state, if they're in power today, it's only because of backdoor politics. And this kind of political vendetta, either horse trading, buying whatever,
I'm saying that you formed the government, but he will not be the
misusing CBI, misusing IT, misusing.
Why are you digressing? Why are you digressing? I'm saying somebody else will be the chief minister from your party, but he will not be able to continue.
So Bhavya, he is saying it's not like the BJP is going to come to power. He is saying somebody else from your party will head a Congress government, but Siddaramaiah will not continue to be chief minister.
Siddaramaiah will not resign no matter what. The investigation, if it happens according to the rules, if the governor's position is not being misused, Siddaramaiah sir has very clearly said he's open for the investigation.
Okay, let's see how open this investigation is. I'm out of time. Thank you very much to all our panelists for joining us. But let's see how open, how free, how independent this probe is. Because earlier today I spoke with Karnataka IT and BT Minister, also the son of the AICC President, Mr. Priyank Kharge, who's a minister in Siddaramaiah's cabinet, and he has said that the ruling today by the Karnataka High Court, according to him, is not a jolt to the Chief Minister Siddaramaiah. He says that the governor's action has been politically motivated. He says there were 3 clauses by which the complainant had moved the governor, and the governor had relied on those 3 clauses for giving sanction to prosecute. But according to him, in today's court order, they have quashed 2 out of those 3 clauses, leaving just 1 clause on the basis of which the High Court has held up the governor's move to give the sanction to prosecute. He also said that the judiciary will eventually exonerate the chief minister, and the bottom line, and I've been saying this again and again, the political bottom line as of today is this, that the chief minister still continues to command the loyalty of a majority of his MLAs. Priyank Kharge is now joining us. Thank you very much, Mr. Kharge, for speaking with us. This is what the High Court found today, that the complainant was justified in seeking the approval of the governor. The governor can take an independent decision in exceptional cases, and the case against the chief minister is an exceptional one, and that no fault can be found in the action of the governor. Why should the chief minister not step down?
Well, it's very clearly quoted even in his judgment that about Section 17A and also about Sections 218 of the BNSS Act. The Honorable Judge has limited his decision only to Section 17A in the Governor's order. The complainant had requested investigation and prosecution under Sections 218 of the BNSS Act, 17A and 19 of the Prevention of Corruption Act. So the Governor initially rejected the request for prosecution under Section 19 of the PCA. And the court has clearly rejected the prosecution sanction given by the governor under 218 of BNSS Act. So the only thing that is left is about the investigation allowed under Section 17A, which will also be cancelled in due process of law. So where is there a necessity for anybody to resign?
But Mr. Kharge, this is what the court has said today, that the gubernatorial order nowhere suffers from want of application of mind. It's not a case of even a semblance of non-application of mind by the governor, but by abundance of application of mind. The PCA does not require only a police officer to seek approval to investigate a public official. It's the duty of the complainant to seek such approval, even if they are a private citizen. So basically, the court is saying that there was nothing wrong in the action of the governor, and that a chief minister today now has to face prosecution. He could be facing an FIR against him.
I'm sorry,
he could be called for questioning.
Yeah, so see, nobody is questioning the 17A part of it, right? Very clearly, the complainant had sought permission for prosecution under Section 218. That has been rejected. They have told that there is nothing that the governor was wrong with the 218. He's asked for investigation. We are open for investigation, and we have already set up a team for investigation.
But should the chief minister not step down pending investigation? The BJP is also citing what happened in 2013 when Mr. Yediyurappa was chief minister, saying that he stepped down similarly when the High Court had said that the governor was right, giving sanction to prosecute.
I'm sorry, I think your history is a bit rusty over here, Zaka, because the investigative agencies had sought his prosecution after investigation. Where is the investigation completed? Where is any investigative agency sought his prosecution here. The investigation has just started.
No, but Mr.
And,
Kharge, how can there be a free and fair investigation if the Chief Minister continues to occupy his chair? Which investigation will come up with a clear conclusion if the Chief Minister is seen as occupying a position of power?
So you're actually saying that Lokayukta is not a constitutional body and they're not independent?
No, but in the Yediyurappa case, when the Lokayukta prima facie found material against Yediyurappa, he stepped down.
He was forced to step down by then. So where is the evidence now? Where is the proceeds of the crime? Where is the evidence now? There is nothing, absolutely nothing that any investigation has found, nor does the governor have anything, nor does the complainant have anything.
So you are saying that the Chief Minister will step down only and if only the Lokayukta finds material cause against him of corruption for him to step down?
See, firstly, there has been no quid pro quo, there has been no corruption, there has been nothing, there is nothing that has transpired. All this is just hearsay evidence that has been popping up. The governor's office is being misused. The governor is acting like the state station house officer, where everything is just being forwarded to the government. And it's very clear what is happening here in Karnataka. It's just a repeat of what's happened in Jharkhand, what's happened in Delhi, what's happening in Tamil Nadu, Kerala. That is the same thing that's happening here. It's a playbook. It's a standard operating procedure of the central government to destabilize governments in states where they are not in power.
But one final word, Mr. Kharge. Are you saying that the Chief Minister's wife did not get 14 plots in plush Vijayanagar, third phase in Mysuru, in exchange for agricultural land that was first given to her brother and then the brother gifted it to her?
The Honorable CM has sat and for a 2-hour press meet and has in detail explained on the entire process of Muda. And it is just not the Chief Minister's wife who has been allotted sites. She's not taken it herself, or there has been a quid pro quo, or there has been a misuse of power here. There have been all the people who were in that ambit, who were supposed to get those sites, have got those sites. It's only that this is being singled out.
But agricultural land somewhere in the outskirts of Mysore to prime plush property right in the heart of the city,
so that
it's
is
not
what
the same.
Muda has given. That's what Muda has done, right? It's not done only for the CM, it's done for all the land losers there. And the Chief Minister's wife happens to be one of them. Muda has already agreed that they have not acquired it legally.
All right, Mr. Priyank Kharge, thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us and putting up a stout defense of the Chief Minister, Mr. Siddaramaiah. So it's going to be almost a year since the war in Gaza began between Israel and Hamas, of course, launched on the back of the deadly October 7 terror strikes. But more than that, in the last week or so, we're seeing virtually almost like a second front open between Israel and Hezbollah. So what is really going on in that region, and what is really the end game here? Because the world cannot afford, let alone one war. Now we have two. Joining us now is a very special guest. Reuven Azar is the new Israeli ambassador to India. Thank you very much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18.
Thank you, Zaka, for this invitation.
So let me start off with the overview of what's happening in your country, in your region. So October 7th was one of the most catastrophic events that happened in Israel, in Israel's history. In response to it, the government there launched an operation. It's going to be almost a year now since that. According to the health ministry in Gaza, 40,000 casualties in this war so far. How do you speak to the criticism from the international community that this has gone on for too long and for far too much?
Well, Zaka, we are facing a new type of warfare. You know, in the past, we used to have either conventional armies or terrorist organizations. We are dealing here with a terrorist organization that actually acquired the capabilities of an army. And not only that it has created, by breaching any norm known to humanity, it created a situation in which it manipulates our respect for international law in order to embed themselves within civilian population, in schools, operating from hospitals, using ambulances to transfer terrorists, and is a very dense urban warfare with hundreds of kilometers of tunnels. But fortunately, what I can tell you is that we've been able to defeat the military capabilities of Hamas. Hamas no longer poses a threat at this point on Israel itself. It cannot shoot missiles in great quantity. Their army has been defeated. 15,000 terrorists have been killed by us. Their factories of missiles have been destroyed. Hundreds of kilometers of...
So are you saying Hamas does not have the capability to now launch another October 7th?
No. Because we have completely dismantled their military organization, and we have taken over also their lifeline of contraband of weapons through the Sinai. So we control the border between Gaza and Egypt, and we are still left with a very difficult dilemma that has to do with our hostages. We've managed to bring back 150 hostages, and we are still with 101 hostages in the hands of Hamas. That is very difficult for us because our society is suffering, our families, and we are doing whatever we can to bring them back.
So
either through a deal.
Go back to the point that you were making. If you are saying that Hamas's capability to launch another October 7th style attack is over, you don't think Hamas can do that, why is this war continuing?
Because first of all, we want to bring our hostages back, and second, we want to make sure that Hamas cannot regroup and rebuild its army of terror.
So do you reckon the ability to bring back the hostages is better served with the war continuing or finding a ceasefire?
Well, as you know, we have adopted the path that was proposed by our Prime Minister, actually, and adopted by the President of the United States and by the United Nations Security Council, that talks about 3 phases. So we have failed to reach the first phase, and you don't have to trust us. You can trust the spokesperson of the White House saying that the sole responsible entity for failing to get into the ceasefire is Hamas, because Hamas actually is not interested in trading people or in exchanging prisoners. What they want to achieve is to remain in power in order to relaunch attacks in the future. So we have to see how we can overcome that. We are still attacking those attempts of Hamas to reorganize themselves in the Gaza Strip. And we are going to continue to put pressure in order to get either a deal that will bring hostages back home or continuing military operation to take our hostages back like we did.
Many have been critical of Prime Minister Netanyahu, saying that he's the one who's the impediment to the ceasefire. He's the one who does not want a ceasefire done.
Well, there was some criticism, that's right. But, this criticism does not dispute the fact that Israel has goals that it has to legitimately achieve. And yes, if you want to bring only the hostages, you don't care about what will happen with Hamas in the future, then you can surrender to Hamas, bring the hostages, and allow Hamas to rearm and regroup. We are not going to allow that, and this is a consensus in the state of Israel. The public doesn't want the government to surrender to Hamas.
Does that also include the families of the hostages?
Well, we don't have any criticism to the families. Of course, that any family of hostages would do whatever possible in the world in order to bring their dear ones back. At the end of the day, the leaders of Israel have to make a strategic decision, and it's not an easy decision.
But they have been protesting against Mr. Netanyahu's government virtually every week, saying he's not doing enough to bring their loved ones back. How would you speak to that?
Well, we are a democratic country. I think that any feeling that any individual in Israel has is a legitimate feeling, and they can express themselves freely in our environment. That's actually very natural.
But it's not just them. There is tens of thousands of other folks from civil society who've been rallying virtually every week, saying that the Prime Minister is not doing enough to bring the hostages back.
That's right. This is part of the criticism. At the end of the day,
and you accept that?
Well, we accept criticism always because we have to be open to criticism. As I said, the dilemma is not that simple because we don't want to be in a situation in which we will surrender to Hamas demands and then face a situation in which Israel will be attacked again and we will have, again, thousands of casualties.
So if you're saying that Hamas has not got the capability anymore to launch an October 7th style attack, but it's continuing A, to rescue the hostages, and B, to ensure it cannot regroup, why then have you opened a new front now in the north with Hezbollah?
Well, actually, if you would ask me 1 year ago, I would tell you that if Israel had a big enough army, we would have attacked Hezbollah immediately. Because Hamas, in a completely unprovoked way, launched an attack against northern Israel on the 8th of October. And this is completely illegitimate. Hamas is a terrorist organization, is an arm of Iran. And, this is not right. We should have retaliated before. But because of our priorities, because of the fact that we wanted to concentrate in defeating the Hamas terror machine, we postponed our retaliation, and we tried through the last 11 months through diplomatic means to get into a ceasefire in the north that will secure the implementation of Resolution 1701 of the Security Council. Unfortunately, Hezbollah is refusing to do that, and therefore we had no choice but to escalate the situation and put pressure on Hezbollah so they actually agree, and the Lebanese government agrees to implement that resolution that would leave only Lebanese army and UNIFIL forces in the border with Israel.
But the escalation against Hezbollah happened just last week. It started really with the pager attacks, which happened sometime middle of last week. And then subsequently, there have been rocket attacks, airstrikes by Israel. The Lebanese health ministry says over 450 have died in the airstrikes that happened over the weekend. When you started the operation against Hamas 1 year ago, you had Hezbollah not on your radar. So many are saying this is the Israeli government and the Israeli Prime Minister changing the goalposts. Your goal was to defeat Hamas, which you claim you have done, but now you're changing the goalpost because you don't want peace, you don't want a ceasefire.
Well, this would be a misinterpretation of the situation, because Hezbollah has been firing towards Israel for the last year, and we did whatever we could in order to create a situation in which we have a diplomatic solution. Now that we have the capability to actually retaliate in a more massive way, what we have failed to do diplomatically, we're trying to do militarily. Now, you have to understand that this is very important. Hezbollah has embedded, since 2006, tens of thousands of rockets in civilian homes in southern Lebanon and in other parts of Lebanon. We know that for a fact. We have shown evidence to that. And we have called, and our Prime Minister himself has called in the last few days, all the civilians that are living in these houses to immediately evacuate those places, because we don't want to harm civilians. If you look at the footage of what Israel targeted, you could see that in many places that we targeted, you had a lot of secondary explosions. And that means that we are actually targeting the military capabilities of Hezbollah. And
but
we are
how
not targeting.
How can you, Ambassador, say that
civilians
have to leave? You did the same thing in Gaza, asking civilians to leave before the operation launched. But the civilians there, admittedly by your own admission, are bound to a terrorist organization, whether it's Hamas in Gaza or Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. How can they leave? How can civilians who are bound by these terrorist organizations possibly leave?
Well, first of all, not all civilians are listening to the terrorists. I think we had a challenge in the Gaza Strip that was twofold. The first is that the Gaza Strip is very small and people couldn't evacuate too far. We had to designate humanitarian areas to which civilians could safely go. And also Hamas was trying to prevent civilians from leaving. They were actually at gunpoint trying to make them remain because they used them as human shields. In the Lebanese scenario, we're seeing a completely different situation. We're seeing hundreds of thousands of people actually leaving southern Lebanon to the north. I think that's a good thing, because we need, at least temporarily, to have a situation in which all these military installations are evacuated so we can target them. So this is not the same scenario. And again, it is the responsibility of those who want to use human shields and not the responsibility of Israel. Israel actually is going out of its way to try to put civilians out of harm's way. We've been doing this with a huge number of tactics that we are using that were never used before, through telephone message texts, by sending radio tests, by flyers, many ways. So the civilians have it clear. I think that maybe the reason why many people in South Lebanon are now evacuating fast is because they saw what happened in the Gaza Strip.
How are you so confident that you can defeat Hezbollah militarily? You went in 2006 and you were not able to. So what's changed in the last 20 years?
Well, the question is always, when you are a democracy, Zaka, is what is the right amount of force that you need to use in order to restore stability. This is not a matter, this is not a football match in which you have to defeat your enemy in any case. You just have to use enough force in order to create a situation in which your enemy or the ones that wants to harm you will stop doing that. It will be deterred from you doing that. So this is what we want to achieve.
Explain this to me in layman's language.
Yes.
So your strategy here is to bomb southern Lebanon, is to bomb Hezbollah and its hideouts or whatever, to the extent that they will be afraid of attacking or retaliating back to Israel?
Well,
back at Israel?
Yeah, in one word, it's called deterrence, okay? It's called respecting international law. So Lebanon, that was hijacked by Hezbollah, is being used as a platform to attack Israel. If Hezbollah doesn't stop attacking Israel, it will pay a price. Now, how much? What will be the amount of that price? It's completely up to Hezbollah to decide.
But this is a terrorist organization, by your own admission, a terrorist organization that came into its very existence. It has on its charter the destruction of Israel. How is deterrence going to work with such an organization?
Well, we have seen, first of all, you are right. It's much more difficult to deter a terrorist organization than to deter countries.
Yes.
Second, we have seen in the past that we have gained very long periods of stability as a result of the military actions we took. So it was enough in 2006 to do a very partial operation without
a 30-day war, yeah,
without a major invasion of our forces to Lebanon in order to achieve stability for 14 years. Now, the question is, of course, what is the price of that stability? Because we saw that in the last 14 years, or almost 20 years since the last war, Hezbollah has accumulated huge capabilities that actually supersede the technological prowess of modern nations. And that is because Iran is feeding them with this technology, sending them money, sending them weapons, sending them training. And this is extremely dangerous. You're right. It's very difficult to deal with that. But we don't have any choice. If we want to survive, we want to thrive as a country, we have to defend ourselves. And we hope that the amount of force that we'll have to use in order to restore stability will be minimal.
So
but we are determined to continue until we reach our goal.
What's the end game here? You have said by your own admission you don't think Hamas can launch another October 7th. You are saying you're going to escalate to the point where you think Hezbollah will be deterred. If neither of this happens, then what, this two-front war goes on for how long? I mean,
well, it will have to go on as long as required until we achieve the very limited goals that we have put forward. In the north, we want implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701, and in the south, we want to bring our hostages back and make sure that Hamas doesn't regroup and rearm again.
And you don't think that this is in any way the criticism against the Israeli government, and particularly the current dispensation, is the war is being kept alive for the Prime Minister's own political ends, to ensure that his coalition government is in office, it survives. How do you speak to that criticism?
Well, I think that whoever says that doesn't understand the dynamic of the Israeli security establishment. We are an army of the people. Every citizen, me, myself, I served 3 years in the army, I was in reserve for several years. We all serve. And the heads of the army, and the politicians and the people that sit in the security cabinet, not only that they don't take into consideration political objectives, they cannot do that because they have to discuss the merits of the military operation and the goals of the military operation. So at no time in the discussions that are taking at the highest level of government, anybody can introduce a political factor. Israel at the end of the day has the elections every 4 years, and if somebody is not satisfied, they can either go and demonstrate, or they can elect another government. And this is exactly the dynamic that is going to...
So I do want to ask you, since you mentioned democracies, yesterday Prime Minister Modi was at the UNGA, on the sidelines of the UNGA. He met with Prime Minister Abbas of the Palestinian Authority, and he said that there is a need for an immediate return to the ceasefire. He also reiterated India's long-held position of the two-state solution being the only solution to this problem. How would you speak to what the Indian government and the Indian Prime Minister have said?
Well, I think it's very natural that any person that loves peace and wants stability will seek an end to this war. We are also trying to seek an end to this war. but we have to do it in accordance to our security interests. Now, when it comes to the vision of two states, it's good to have a vision. The question is what is the practical way to getting there? Today, unfortunately, if that vision would be implemented immediately, that would mean that you would have a Hamas terror state in Gaza and the West Bank, and that would be a recipe for perpetual war. So if you want to change that, and Israelis want self-rule for the Palestinians, actually throughout the last few decades we gave very generous offers for establishing a Palestinian state. These were rejected by the Palestinians. So we have to be in a situation that not only the Hamas and the terrorists are defeated, but the region around us is not controlled by radical elements.
Do you believe India can play an honest mediator to try and find a ceasefire between Israel and Palestine?
Well, it's completely up to India to decide what role it wants to have. I think that right now it's not a matter of who is going to be the mediator. It's about the merits of the situation. Okay? You have a situation in the Middle East in which you have powers like Iran that are theocratic and radical. You have the Muslim Brotherhood, you have Salafi forces, you have ISIS, Al-Qaeda. This is a very, very precarious environment, and we are trying to work together with our pragmatic neighbors. We have a common interest to create stability by confronting these radicals. We have seen during this war a situation in which our coordination through the American umbrella of CENTCOM has created cooperation in order to defend the skies of the Middle East, and this unprecedented attack of Iran, of a barrage of 300 drones and missiles and ballistic missiles, was successfully foiled. And this is thanks to this cooperation. So if we have a building block of security cooperation, and we have a political order, a political interest between pragmatic countries after this war, I'm sure that we'll be able to cope with this and even build a building block of economic cooperation. This is what we want to achieve. And I think India can be and has the interest of being part of that security and stability and prosperity corridor that will connect Asia to Europe.
To the Middle East. All right. Thank you very much.
High Court. We're picking up several legal reactions on this big story. Listen in.
Who was part of the legal team that was fighting for Siddaramaiah in the Karnataka High Court in this petition. Would you see this as a setback, the kind of observations made in the judgment?
It's definitely a setback, but there is of course an opportunity or a remedy available for appeal. Prima facie, we are of the opinion that there were certain observations that were unnecessary. I feel it was ultra vires of the authority that is vested in the Honorable Learned Single Judge. However, we bow our heads with humility and accept the order as it is today. But we will definitely explore our options. There are certain legal contentions that need to be addressed, and we will explore all these abilities.
Especially the observation that perhaps the governor shouldn't have or didn't have to go by the aid and advice of the cabinet, and that there was abundance of application of mind. Because these are 2 points that that you were arguing on, one of the main contentions of your team.
Insofar as the aid and advice is concerned, the governor is required to act under the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. That's a mandate of the Constitution. It's a constitutional mandate. However, there are Supreme Court judgments that lay out exceptions as to when the governor can exercise his discretion. But is this a case where he could have exercised such discretion, especially when there was a cabinet decision to withdraw the show cause notice, or there was a detailed response from the Honorable Chief Minister, there was a detailed reply insofar as the Chief Secretary is concerned, there was an inquiry commission that was set up. So the governor must also accord reasons as to why he is differing from the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers, in the absence of which the burden of proof is higher on him, especially in these circumstances. He's in the regular course of things, he's required to act under the aid and advice, but to defy it under these exceptional circumstances, he must accord cogent reasons, which we believe hasn't happened. And let's see, we know where the Supreme Court judgments are in our favor. Nabam Rabia and MP police establishments. We will urge all these contentions.
So, appeal before the division bench is one of the options for you now?
Yeah, that's the only option. We filed a writ petition and a GM rest classification.
ಒಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿ
On that note, allow me to introduce to you our experts joining us this afternoon. We have Surabhi Mudigere, spokesperson of Karnataka BJP, with us, along with advocate from the Supreme Court Sumit Chandar. We also have political commentator Paramveer Singh with us on the broadcast. My first question is to Surabhi. Given the political reactions coming in from the Congress, we've heard it from Deputy Chief Minister Surabhi, who has, in as many words, while backing the Chief Minister, said that we will weigh in on all legal options, but this is pure political vendetta against Chief Minister Siddaramaiah.
First and foremost, I congratulate the people of Karnataka because today truth has triumphed in a way that it stings a little for the governing party, but so be it. We have been, as the opposition party here in Karnataka, we have been pulling this issue to the forefront, fighting through different, on the street, legally, etc., etc. But the particular case in question is...
The forum that sets the national agenda is back.
When there are elections in a country and they give you results you don't like, you call them electoral autocracy.
With an unmatched legacy across India's important cities.
There is no such thing as a BJP foreign policy or a Congress foreign policy. There's only India's foreign policy.
Featuring policymakers at the heart of shaping the nation and economy.
It was this government which has amended the minimum alternative tax.
Alongside India's most iconic voices from diverse fields.
सोनू के टीटू की स्वीटी वो फिल्म थी जिसने मुझे घरों तक पहुंचाया.
Bangalore is absolutely the startup capital of the country.
To spark debate and engage in uninhibited conversations.
एकनाथ जी मुख्यमंत्री बनेंगे, ये बात तो मुझे पहले से पता थी.
In the only town hall that matters and about to get bigger, better and more impactful. CNN News 18 Town Hall.
Of the Chief Minister questioning the Governor's order for sanction of prosecution. And today the fact that this has been dismissed goes to show that one, our judiciary is committed to upholding constitutional values that clearly the Congress party has been negligent of. This was not a trial of whether Mr. Siddaramaiah is guilty or not. This was a mere sanction to investigate. How can we come when there are such strong allegations, and this has been reiterated in the in the order today, that these allegations are not to anybody else but to the family members of the Chief Minister himself, who, mind you, has been in some position of power in the last